we are we're doing something that's important to me, and I know it's important to you because of our relationship and our background. We're about to capture. We're taking a stab at capturing something that's kind of hard to put your arms around and put your hands around, but it's a 51-year relationship, or and memories that few people seldom have or have the need to have
51 years.
51.
51. Wow.
Sitting here in your house in beautiful Mesa, Arizona, and we just want to capture or get down a few of the things that are important to me and you. Our grandkids will probably watch this one day. They might even be adults when they watch
I hope they do.
Yeah, yeah. And so one of the things we talked about was just sort of identifying some of the things that, how are they different? How are we different? How was our world? Where did all this start?
Yeah, well,
Where did we first meet?
Mike and I met in Cu Chi, Republic of South Vietnam. It was a base camp of the 25th Division. And I will never forget the first day I met him, even though we weren't formally induced or introduced.
Nor induced.
Yeah, nor induced. But
Nor reduced.
we both arrived at the 116th Salt Helicopter Company, the Hornets, the same month.
Yeah.
On different aircraft. But first time I saw Mike, he was STRAC airborne like myself. And I said, yeah, I'm glad to see that because he's not wearing baggy pants and aren't starched, and he looks like an officer to me. And that's when we first met. But we started working together several months later, and I'll tell you about that in a few moments.
We worked together doing something that was very unique. We were the gunship, the armed helicopters assigned to a big helicopter company who was participating in a war that was different from anything our country had ever done before, and almost 51 years later, it was different from anything we've done really since. It was a jungle environment, and our unit would go pick up troops, combat troops, and carry them and insert them at pre-chosen places in the jungle in an area. And our job was to go try to ensure they got in there without getting shot up by providing firepower, and then stay with them and to help overcome any obstacle that they encountered during the day or the night, if that happened. And so we were doing something that was kind of cool but very dangerous.
Yes, it was.
And you saw as taking care of all the people in the aircraft and that you fixed that.
And to
danger.
expand on that, I at the time we met, I was working as a supervisor of mechanics at night, keeping aircraft in the air. And we had a wonderful company commander.
Oh, yeah.
It was Major Patterson, who was a great leader, and then we had a company commander named Major Hank Small. And he called me into his office one day and said, "Specialist Callahan," well, I was a specialist at the time, "I need a favor." And I could never refuse Hank Small. I said, "Well, sir, what's the favor?" He says, "I need somebody to take over the Stinger gunship platoon as platoon sergeant." And I was flattered, that he had that confidence in me. But I was scared to death of the Stingers because they were known as the rowdy group of the 116th. But I complied with his wishes, and that's when Mike and I started working together. And I was the platoon sergeant trying to keep these sling wings up in the air, and he was aircraft commander at the time, and then later platoon leader.
Now we were 20, 21, 22, 23 years old. Both you and I stayed there longer than the average bear. I stayed for 3 back-to-back tours. You knocked out a couple of tours. We both stayed and did more than they were originally asking, and more than the Army was asking. And we did it at a young age. We were in our early 20s when we were doing that.
Yeah.
Heavy responsibility. I mean, we had responsibility for guiding, helping, nurturing at times, and managing the efforts of hardworking people who were doing something dangerous,
And keeping, you know, the camaraderie up.
absolutely.
You helped a lot with that. People wanted to work with Mike. The enlisted guys liked the way he ran the platoon. They liked being into the action and helping those infantry troops especially, and covering our own ships.
And we did that. We went
did.
into where it was.
We did.
We went in.
He did. I didn't.
We were criticized some for taking the risks that we did, but we also knew that we were saving a lot of lives by taking the risks that we did. But for you and I to go there and be there in those years in our 20s and to work together, I told Mary Lynn and others, I don't ever remember there being a disagreement. Anything that was negative, we may have said, oh, we need to, do more of this or less of that. But we worked in.
It was pretty harmony.
A lot of harmony.
A lot of harmony.
Because we were trying to get the same thing done, and we agreed on how to do it, and that was maximum effort toward getting the most ships out and the best gunners and the best guns.
And part of the Stingers was that Stingers was pretty much an invitation only platoon.
People didn't just get assigned.
Yeah, they wanted to be there, and most of them knew the risks of being a Stinger, and that really helped the esprit de corps.
Yeah.
And Mike and his gang of pilots and officers, they'd be out there filling sandbags with us, with all the enlisted guys. We'd be doing the same thing, building those bunkers and digging holes and sweating in that tropical sunshine.
And we're talking about guys that were coming from all over the country. We had Alan Horton from Virginia. We had Johnny Holman, who ended up in Washington State. We had Horn, wasn't he, from Texas?
Oh, he was from Mississippi.
Mississippi.
We had Joe Capon from Massachusetts, and then we had a wonderful guy. He was a gunner. His name was Danny Schultz.
Yeah,
He was from Brooklyn, New York.
That's right.
And I had my platoon leader, Captain Mike Atkinson, right here from Alabama. And I had Danny Schultz as a gunner one day, and I was the crew chief. And the Brooklyn accent and the Alabama accent did not get along.
But
don't ever let him get on the ship with me again. I can't understand him.
but we overcame that.
Yes, we did.
We got on target and everything worked out. We all spoke gun smoke.
Yeah, we had guys like Ernie Fryer, who was from Chicago, and Ernie was a lifeguard at some beach up in northern Vietnam, or northern part of South Vietnam, and said, I haven't done anything here. So he came down, he interviewed as a Stinger, and turned out to be one of our best gunners. I went to a little side note. Ernie retired here several years ago as a state trooper in the state of Arizona, and I was just so proud and so touched to go to his retirement party. It was wonderful.
And we had some of the best pilots in the whole Army Aviation.
Yeah, Carol
Guys
Dyson.
Carol Dyson, Don Greneman,
Buck Elton. Don Reuser.
Yes.
Don Reuser.
Walker was great. Mike Cheney.
Mike Cheney. Mike Cheney was a legend.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, a legend in his own time. He was. Yeah. I'll tell you what, they only made one. Yeah. And we were lucky to have that one.
That's right. We had some darn good pilots. Walt Winters ended up coming over.
Walt. Yeah, and the thing was that there was this. You did this. You put this esprit de corps in there that everybody wanted to fly with. Well, they wanted to fly with you because they know they'd see something, But they wanted to be there and they wanted to do that job. And from the crew chiefs, they would fly all day and work most of the night. to get the thing
Yeah.
flying the next day.
They did.
However, we did have our little moments of parties.
Yes, we did. We celebrated from time to time. If they
Yeah.
told us that we weren't gonna have a combat assault mission for a day or two,
Yeah.
then we would sometimes pause in place and take advantage of
And
that.
we would do that, and we
Yeah.
would have a barbecue, and we'd have a few beers, and a lot of people would be laying on the floor, and our faithful monkey Claymore would be in there, and he would have a few beers and throw the beer cans up, and everybody would be calling incoming, because the fan would be knocking these cans all over the place.
And the dog named Whiskers.
And Whiskers,
Yeah.
Whiskers.
Well, I gotta tell you that after all those years and going through that at age 21, 22 and doing the things that we did, and then after that, having the good fortune to live a life and I went on and spent 20 years in the Army and enjoyed that a lot. And then had a lot of experiences after the Army with working with a lot of good people and learning a lot of things that were helpful to me. I never stopped looking back over my shoulder at the moments and the days and the times and the relationships.
It's like a movie. It's like a movie, a wonderful movie, and there's sad parts, but a movie of our youth,
Yeah.
and I can play it anytime I want in my head. And I have to say, every time I hear his voice, it reminds me of home. Yes, it does. Are we done?